Prabhupada will sing something that may be new to some of you. Hopefully it's not new to most of you. It goes like this. Listen carefully. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutali Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namini Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutali Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namini Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutali Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namini Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutali Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namini Namaste Sarasvate Devam Gauravani Pracharine Nirvasesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namaste Gauravani Pracharine Nirvasesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namaste Sarasvate Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvasesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namaste Sarasvati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvasesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So sorry that my singing is not so good. It's weak and it's scratchy and it's squeaky, but to make up for it, I tried to choose some really good words that have spiritual significance, and that's more important. If somebody's saying something really nice, but it had no significance, it's like wrapping for you a stone in a nice box or getting a kilo of gold in a newspaper. You want the one in the box, right, that looks good? We're going to discuss that a little. Bhaktisiddhanta gave the class on mortology and ontology. So today we're going to talk about Prabhupada's vision for South Africa and his instructions from both a morphological position and an ontological position. And we'll talk about some instructions Prabhupada gave specifically in Africa, some general instructions, and one he gave to me. Now, what does the morphology and ontology mean? Can someone tell me? Who wants to explain it? I explained it a little bit there with the box. The morphology is the form. The box looks really good, and it's wrapped up nicely. This is a good form. But the ontology is what the content is. So we have to realize that we need certain form in our practice, but we need to have the content that's good. The story that illustrates that is when my whole family and I, my son, my daughter, and granddaughter went to Miami to try to pick up some foreclosures. We got a few at like a quarter or a third the price. So I'm all dressed up to go give the Sunday feast. These three men come in dhotis and kurtas. As we're leaving, I said, Hare Krishna. They said, what? I'm thinking, how can they be saying what? They said, what? I said, what? How don't you understand? I said, you coming to the temple? They said, the what? And I'm going this way. They said, where are you going? The Greek toga party's in the room here. I says, no, I'm going to the Krishna temple. And we both looked at each other, totally flabbergasted. So the form was the same, but the content was different. Just like if you go in a dhoti, but you're just collecting funds for yourself, form looks good. Prabhupada calls that the cheaters and the cheated. Sometimes the women want to have a baby by a sadhu, so the man dresses up a sadhu and goes down by the river. Who's getting cheated? Was it the woman, the baby being born, the sadhu, or everyone? Everyone. So we try to look beyond just the form for the content. We'll talk, just like I told Rudy Kirti, that with the computer, they say that garbage goes in and garbage comes out. I use the same theory, but I don't use garbage. If you put Krishna conscious knowledge in, it comes out Krishna conscious knowledge, even for someone like me. So, again, we're looking at Prabhupada's vision for Africa. I don't like to do too much reading, but I'll read a couple of points here because it's better to discuss them, some of the things that Prabhupada said in relation to South African preaching. He says in the Madhya Lila, chapter 7, verse 128, that it doesn't matter if someone is an Indian, a European, or an African. If they follow Krishna's instructions, their life will become successful. There again, we go back to the form. Does it matter which form they have, or does it matter if they get the Krishna conscious content or not? That's what matters. It's the content, getting Krishna consciousness, not what family that you came from. Now, Prabhupada says that the Hindus are not very liberal, but Lord Chaitanya is very liberal. So who do we follow? The average Hindus? Or what is a Hindu? A Hindu means someone who lives by the Indus River. correct? And where's the Indus River? It's in Pakistan. So therefore, Hindu must mean someone who lives in Pakistan. That's just as good interpretation as a religion. I'll give you 10 rand for every place in Bhagavad Gita you can find where Krishna uses the word Hindu. Where is it? So that is, again, form and content. The form, well, we're Hindus, but we don't know what it means. So what we try to rely on, some of the things that Prabhupada sent in a letter to Brahmananda, he said that we should print many, many books in African languages and distribute them widely. He says, preaching is our real business, more important even than temples. And Krishna is pleased by this preaching work. Prabhupada wrote to Brahmananda on January 26, 1974, "It is good you have made a decision to train African people to be nice preachers. This is a nice idea." So you do like Prabhupada did in Russia. He found one person, Ananta Shanti, and he trained him in all the things in devotional service, and he spread it to other people. So, we don't judge people, but we qualify to see if someone's a little interested. Just like when someone distributes books, they use the same theory as advertising. First, you try to get their interest. Then you get their attention. Then you create a desire by discussing something about it. And then you take action asking them for money. So if you can't get their interest, better to leave them for the next one. So if we're going to train African people how to be devotees, first we have to find an African. That probably shouldn't be too difficult. They're over 80% of the population, right? You can't say, I walked all over Durban and I was unable to find an African. Is that true? There must be some somewhere. And just like with books, you don't have to influence them at all. If someone talks to 1,000 people to purchase Bhagavad Gitas and they fail 90% of the time, what does that mean? It means they distributed 100 Bhagavad Gitas. So even if we only succeed 10% of the time, we're a big success. So we just have to find a few and train them, because quite often people like to be taught by their own people. And we have to figure out ways to do this. It's like Prabhupada said in the beginning, he didn't introduce regulative principles. This is important for people being initiated, being pujaris and being certain things. But the first time someone comes to a temple, Prabhupada says, just tell them, come and watch what we do. This is why we greet people, because people are afraid to come to a temple. It's not actually our fault. It's because when you go to some institutions, they look at you like you're an outsider, just like in this place. You go to certain places where it's all one race and they look at you like, what are you doing here? And they judge by the form. There was the golf course in Palm Springs. Someone said, can you get that old American Indian off the course? I said, no. I said, why? I said, it's because he owns the course. He wasn't dressed nicely. He didn't have to. He owned the golf course, right? Form wasn't good, but boy, he had the content down. So we look for people who we can interest in this way, and we train some of them. So it's good to have sometimes programs, Prabhupada says, side by side. Sometimes you bring people at a different time. But when people come for the first time, they're afraid that they'll be excluded. And they're even more afraid they'll be included. You go to some churches and they meet you in the foyer. They talk to you for 5 minutes and they say, now you'll join our church. And they're thinking, well, can I watch a service or read a book or something? So they're afraid of both. So you let them know that you can come in, take as much or as little as you want. You make people feel welcome. It's a perfect video of my mother, because my mother got to do legal work for Prabhupada, like write the book trust. And she talks about how Prabhupada made her feel so cordial. They didn't go behind a big desk. They sat at a simple place. And Prabhupada knew how to make people feel comfortable, because then when they feel comfortable, you're able to give them the philosophy, or they'll tell you the things that you need to do. So when Prabhupada went to Nairobi, he said to Brahmananda, "Where's all the African people?" Maybe they couldn't find them. I think you can, can't you? Can anyone here say that they can't find an African? They're there somewhere. So he said, "Where are all of them?" And he said, "Well, we have trouble preaching to the different." Prabhupada said, "If you won't preach to them, I will." So he said, "Rent a hall in the town. What you do, just keep the doors open, and we sing kirtan." How many times had Prabhupada been to Nairobi? So he couldn't know what to do. Could he? You might think so. But the room filled up with African people. And they all chanted with him. So it sounds like he knew what he was doing. If what he did worked, then obviously he knew. So sometimes we go out to villages, or we need to have maybe like a regular program. Parthasarathi used to use it for the Indians, the tent campaign. And people like to sing. And do African people like to eat? I think they starve if they never eat. Is that something different about them? No. So if you have the nice chanting, and you have a special place for them, or if they come here and they see so many other people, you meet them. Because when people come to a temple, say an Indian man comes to the Indian temple with his wife and 3 children, he brings his brother with a wife and 4 children, there's already 11 of them, and they're familiar with the temple. They don't feel neglected. But if one African person comes on his own, he may feel neglected. But you know what it means when someone comes alone? Who can tell me? It means that they were interested enough, they didn't wait for someone to invite them. People go to all kinds of things when someone, just like I have old friends in Laguna that say, "Can you meet me at that temple or take me there?" But if someone shows up on their own, they're interested enough that they don't care if they don't know anybody there. They don't have to come with somebody else. So you talk to them, you make them a friend, and make them feel like they want to come back next week. Some of the other things that Prabhupada said here. He says, without the books, we have no solid preaching. So we have to get books into the hands of people. He says we have to recruit the African preachers, especially African devotees, for helping us preach in the African content. So we need a form, we need a program for that, where they do get some from the college, but where you train them. At the beginning, they don't teach mortology and ontology, or the 10 major points of Srimad Bhagavatam, Sarga, Visarga, creation, subcreation, and that may not be easy for people to understand. But with creation, they have this theory that it explodes. A disorganized thing turns into the most organized thing. It's like, say, how do you create a company? Well, you blow something up and it forms. The most disorganized thing cannot come to the most organized thing. You don't see such a thing. So you have to figure out how to train a few people. And you may find them in your ordinary days, or when they're at the college. You find a few, and then you bring them along. And when you bring them, you introduce them to other Africans, and you introduce them to Indians. If people meet people, it's not so hard anymore. So, let's see what other points were in here. Another thing, Prabhupada writes to Dinanath, if you are sincere and your motive is pure, then everything will come out all right. We'll come back to that in a moment. So, Do we follow the teaching that Krishna gave to Manu 40 million years ago? This is a multiple choice again. A, do we follow what Krishna told to Manu 40 million years ago? B, what Krishna speaks in Bhagavad Gita? C, what Prabhupada gives us in his books? D, none of the above. E, all of the above. Or F, the first three. Which one is it? First three, yeah, because if one of them is a negative, it can't be all of the above, and it can't be none of the above. So we find that these things are connected. There isn't a difference. That's why we have to know them. It has to be Guru, Shastra, and Sadhu. If you go over to Swami Hajpajananda at the Concoction Society, they say things like when one from India took us to his ashram, and he said, I have realized that in my travels around the world, you have to travel around the world because the world is round. Then he said there is a lie in belief. Just spell it. B-E-L-I-E-F-E. Hell is simply shell with the S removed. These are kind of things that sound cute, but they're useless. Just like quite often Indians talk in tautologies. Like someone will say, where is Deva Deva? Well, he is somewhere else. But don't worry, he'll come back after some time. Both absolutely true statements, but they don't help you. This is called a tautology. I never heard Prabhupada speak in those. Does he write that in his books? That we will have the artik after some time? He doesn't use this. So what we speak is in direct knowledge. Prabhupada gave the talk at the Durban City Hall on October 7th, 1975. He starts it out by talking about how this knowledge was imparted to the sun god Vivishwan millions of years ago. And Vivishwan instructed to his son Manu, and Manu instructed to his son Ikshvaku. My son is named Ikshvaku, but I'm not Manu, I'm Kshudi. So then he says the famous verse, Evam parampara praptam imam rajarishi vidu. So he says, I'm not introducing something new. It may be new to people who haven't heard it, but he's introducing what he's heard. What he says is in line. Will you tell me this? When we read Prabhupada's books, what looks like it's more in line with Krishna's teachings? That or what the Swami who gave the hodgepodge thing said? Does that sound like good teachings? Will that help you? I have to travel around the world because the world is round. Well, of course it's true, but it doesn't help you. And it sounds good. Wow, did you hear what he said? He said the world is round. Really? Some people don't believe that. They hate the Emirates flight because it goes over the pole, but we won't dig into that. So he explains this, how what he is teaching is the same teaching that was given. And why do we have to keep this teaching in line? Krishna explains this in the next verse. He says, over the course of time, the succession was broken, and therefore the science as it is appears to be lost. That's why you hear when Shrutakirti talks about following what Prabhupada gave. Because if the succession is broken, then the science is lost. If you have a recipe of things to cook, and someone tells you the same recipe, and you do the cooking the same way, but if someone else speculates, say the cake, it says add 2 cups flour, 1 cup sugar, cook at 150 degrees Celsius for an hour. You say, well, I'll add, instead of 2 of flour, we'll put 2 of sugar, 1 of flour, and we'll cook for 2 hours instead of 1, and we'll cook at 250 degrees Celsius instead of 150. Will you get the same thing? Sounds like it should be, doesn't it? Just like 2 parts hydrogen and 1 part oxygen is water, right? So hydrogen and oxygen are water, correct? So if you get 2 parts hydrogen and 2 parts oxygen, that must also be water, correct? Isn't it the same things? It's the same things, but it becomes hydrogen peroxide. That's not water, is it? You're sure? Okay, good. Yeah, you make sure of that. So that's why we have to get it as it is. Something sounds similar. So I usually give part of it. I give you part of the instructions and then I change some of it. So Prabhupada explained this. And then that this is what Krishna is saying, that the science as it is appears to be lost. And therefore I am telling you that same science today, because you're my devotee as well as my friend. And then Krishna goes into explaining his nature, that although I'm unborn and my transcendental body deteriorates, and although I'm the Lord of all sentient beings, I still appear in every millennium in my original transcendental form. Sri Jami Aham, he manifests as he is. So let's see, what did Krishna say next? Or what did Prabhupada say next? I took a picture of one verse so I would say it correctly. Because we don't want to give that recipe wrong, right? If some of it's right and some of it's not, is that good? Not exactly, right? Oh, then Krishna explains about Lord Chaitanya. He says, Krishna Varnam Tavasvikam Sango Pangasta Parishadam Yagnayar Sankirtan Prayer Yajanti Hi Sumedasaha. This is in the 11th canto, 5th chapter, 32nd verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. Because quite often people talk about the fire sacrifices and the meditation they did in the Satya Yuga and Treta Yuga. These things worked very well in Satya Yuga and Treta Yuga. So we do them today, correct? Is it Satya Yuga? No, obviously not. So we do what's prescribed for this day and age. And Lord Chaitanya comes to give the prescribed method for this day and age. That's why we find many Indians doing the Treta Yuga things. I think they're a little bit behind the times. How long is the Dwarka Yuga? Dwarpa Yuga is something like 700,000 years. It's 864, right? Plus about 5,000. So the end of Treta Yuga was something like 869,000 years ago. Is that a little bit of, would you call that ancient history? Yes. It's not recent. Because we're talking in such exact things. Lord Chaitanya is almost recent history to us. He says this Krishna conscious movement is practically Lord Chaitanya's movement. And he is Krishna himself. Krishna is very kind upon the conditioned souls. He is trying to elevate them to the real platform of Krishna consciousness again and again. But we are so stubborn, we are trying to forget Krishna. This is going on. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, especially he is instructing to the Indian people. Prabhupada is saying this in Durban. Durban is Africa, correct? He said that he is instructing the Indian people. He is saying to them, Bharata Bhumite Manusha Janma Aila Yara. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in Bengal, the district of Nabajweep, about 64 miles from Calcutta. His life and precepts are there. And he has asked the Indian people to preach Krishna consciousness. He says here, anyone who has taken birth in India the pious land, that they should bring Krishna consciousness to people. So he was saying that there are many Indian people here that they should bring Krishna consciousness to people. So we're talking about the methods. Prabhupada is saying you train a few African people. This is something Prabhupada did too. He trained disciples, and then they train other people. This is the way to do it. Even the Revolutionary War, George Washington brought one expert from Germany, and he trained like the top 32 officers, and they trained the others to follow this training, to get the training right. These things are important. But as Prabhupada wrote to Dinanath, let me find where I put that. He said that if you are sincere and your motive is pure, things will come out perfectly. You know, they say that in anything, working on yourself is an important thing. I told Vaisheshika in Vrindavan, I said, all these people love you and want to buy books from you. He says, that's because I love them. They found in so many things that the first thing is working on yourself. Because if you look like you're frustrated, argumentative, and above all, always irritated, do people want to buy your product? As one Calcutta, this one man walked up, he looked in bad shape. And normally he wouldn't say something insulting like this, but I had to say it. He says, you want to buy some morphine? I said, you take it? He says, oh yes. I says, you don't look like you're doing very well. I don't think I need to take what you're taking, right? Isn't it true? So, as they say, expression in America is pretty is as pretty does. The Acharya is someone who teaches by example. You can't say, do as I say, don't do as I do. Many parents in America say that. It doesn't work out quite well. So the teachings of Krishna go along with the teachings of Prabhupada. And like Prabhupada says, is your motive pure? When we chant Hare Krishna, he purifies us. But we have to remember certain things. You know, we have to care about other people. Jayapataka Swami says in the Bhakti Vrikshas that people want to know how much you care before they care how much you know. They can spot this. There's a big difference between saying, I've been studying this Bhagavad Gita for years, and I know a lot and you don't. Besides that, I like to make people do what I'm doing, so you need to read this book. Or if I say, you know what, this book has been helping me over the last few decades. Maybe we can find something together that helps you. You have to think, what is the point? Is the point that you're trying to prove how great you are, or bring Krishna consciousness to them? We have to be resolute in our purpose. Krishna says the intelligence of those who are irresolute is many-branched. This should be obvious. People who don't know what they want aren't going to get it. So we need to know what we want. One girl in India said, when I go out, people always want to argue with me. I said, you need to be fixed in your determination. Are you going out to argue? Or are you going out to get people interested in books? If you're going out to argue, I tell you, today's Tuesday. And whatever you say, no, I disagree with that. You disagree with everything people say. Are those trees? No, those aren't trees. So if you're trying to argue, then you disagree with everything. But is that what you want to do? Or get people interested in books? Prabhupada uses the saying for all preaching, you go in like a needle, come out like a plow. You start with something simple. Vaisheshika asks people, have you heard of stress? Can they say no? Or say, oh, are you from Chatsworth or are you visiting from somewhere else? You ask something easy to get people involved. So part of it starts by being the right person. Just like the form, you can put me in a cricket outfit. You can even put number 10 on my outfit and put me out in the field. And now I'm going to train people how to play cricket. But what's the problem? I have no idea how to play. But if I have the right uniform and the right number, and I'm holding the bat, that makes me expert. No, it doesn't. So where do we start with? We start with working on ourselves. For instance, things like Krishna says in the 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. One who's not envious, but a kind friend to all living entities, who does not think himself a proprietor, who is free from false ego, who is equal in happiness and distress. He's always satisfied, self-controlled, engaged in devotional service with determination, his mind and intelligence fixed on me. If you follow these things, then your motive will be pure. Then you will be able to bring it to others. Because if you're envious of other people, can you be a friend? And if you're a friend, can you be envious? If your friends are doing something good, then you're happy. Like I say, don't be threatened if someone's better than you at something unless it's knife fighting and they're chasing you with one. Other than that, don't be threatened that someone knows more philosophy than you or someone chants more nicely than you. If you're envious, you can't be a friend. And if you're a friend, you can't be envious. I don't think a proprietor, we're trying to own everything, including the things that don't belong to me. People are always trying to extend their boundaries. When my mother was in the hospital, the neighbors moved the fences over, saying, well, this is the new boundary line. I said, no, I got the surveyor out there, set it up correctly. You can't just extend your boundaries, but people are trying to do that. Isn't that what wars are about? Oh, no, the boundary of the country's here, but we want to move it over there. How many lives and things are wasted on people trying to move the boundary, trying to be proprietor not only of what they have, but what isn't theirs. And if you increase your boundary by 50%, how much of it do you take with you when you die? Does it increase does it decrease it? No. You get zero, you can't decrease that. So if you can't take any of it with you, why are you fighting for more of it? But yet they do this all the time. So having these qualities is helpful. Krishna says someone that does this is dear to him. They're free from false ego. We're not thinking how great we are. There isn't any verse where Krishna talks about how important it is to be born in India or a particular family, and you should be proud of this. Krishna says the things that are dear to him. So we have to have the two things in mind that Prabhupada is giving, like how to train a few people. We need to do some more work on how to train a few African people. Is this true, or have we trained enough already? We get a few good ones. When they come along, they must be serious, because even though what average Hindus do may be different than what Krishna consciousness is, the families don't feel that. It's not a big change for someone who is a Hindu and comes to the temple once in a while to become a devotee and come all the time. They don't go, why are you going to that temple? They're used to going to them. But for Africans to come, the family wants them to do someone else. They don't want them to follow a foreign religion unless it's Christianity. And so it's a little harder for them to do it. But we have to think of ways. Sometimes it's harder for other people, but if you meet one person and bring them, and they have a friend, maybe it's not so difficult now. But as Prabhupada was saying that, we need to go to another stage where we do that. Maybe you can't make friends with all Africans and bring everyone to the temple. But can everyone find one between now and the end of the year or the end of the month? Tell someone, oh, you know what? There's a lot of different people, but you come as my friend. And especially when you get 2, 3, 4, 5, or you bring them to the programs. Rukmini has a program for people from the college on what day? Tuesday and Wednesday. Where? At the university. So can non-university people come to that? What? Yeah, but you can probably find some people at the university. People go there, right? Students? You get some to come. And when you give them a card, do you call it a card? Yes? Say, here's a card. What do we call it? No, it's an invitation. See, sometimes you have to solve the objection before it comes up. Some people think, well, they can't go there without an invitation. So you give them one. Here's an invitation to our program at the college. Here's an invitation to our program at the temple. You got to realize that people working against us, they think you can't go there unless you're invited. Some people think there's a big snake in the moat that eats people. Well, then how do people come and go all the time? Right? But if they're told that, many people believe exactly what they're told. But it doesn't like tell people that there's a lot of information on the internet, and some of it's even true. So we have to know what to use for facts. So Prabhupada wanted us to do more of this. Doesn't mean we don't also bring Indians and do that. But you can also have a thing where you have a special meeting with just a few, and you start with the college. How many devotees go out to the college to bring people? How many go? You would know, wouldn't you? How many? 3 go. And they can bring other people? And people are interested? So what is the first thing they tell them? I know things and you don't? Or they make friends and get them to try to come along. There's a big difference in sharing something and trying to force people to do it. And of course, so the instructions that we get are good universally, and even the things personally, like in my life, the instructions I got from Prabhupada, starting from when I left India, I went into Prabhupada's room and I said, Prabhupada, I'm going to Africa now. I hope this gives me an opportunity to increase my service to you. And Prabhupada just put his hands behind his head and he said, service to Lord Chaitanya, service to Lord Chaitanya, service to Lord Chaitanya. So many things that he said to me in writing can be applied. He says, I'm very much pleased at the responsibility you've taken to spread Krishna consciousness in South Africa at such a young age. Now, we can't think I want to become responsible, so I'll become the treasurer, or I'll be the head pujari, or I'll do the cooking if there's already someone do it. But we can take responsibility for meeting new people and helping them come along. Doesn't have to be everyone. If you succeed even some of the time, it's a success. And you just try to make friends with people. But Prabhupada said in the beginning, he just tried to introduce chanting. You go somewhere, you have the chanting, and you see people who are interested in the chanting, maybe interested in something more. So Prabhupada wrote that he was very much pleased at the responsibility I've taken. And this is a big asset. I was looking through Bhagavad Gita one day for a shortcut. What chapter did I find it in? The end of the 18th, obviously. Krishna says, one who teaches this science to my devotees is the most dear, and never will there be one more dear. For this person, devotional service is guaranteed, and at the end he comes back to me. This is a great gift given to us. How to advance in Krishna consciousness, please Krishna and the spiritual master, and help other people. It's like if they say, oh, they're giving kilos of gold away across the street. I'll let someone else do it. Is that what you would say? I'll let someone else do it. So here's an opportunity to get out of the material world, because look at this way, kilo of gold is worth a lot. But if you don't get one for free, you can get a job, and you can make money, and you can buy a kilo of gold. Can you get a job and make money and buy pure devotional service? No. You can buy a car that takes you to the temple. You may help it out in some ways. You can donate, but you can't buy it directly. So this is an opportunity that's even better than money. That one person sang a song, I think Eric Burdon, The Animals. He says, the best things in life are free. Those kind of things I don't need. Give me money, that's what I want. Some people have a lot of money and they're very miserable. Some people don't have it, but they have Krishna and they're happy. So we have to look at how the teachings that Krishna is giving are the same as what Prabhupada is giving. And part of it is the internal, the ontological part, that we understand what kind of people we need to be. It's like Prabhupada wrote me in the letter, chant your 16 rounds and follow the 4 regulative principles. This will keep your consciousness pure and eager to engage in devotional service. And he wrote me that somehow or other I'd been left alone, just like Narada Muni. So now I get it when children are somewhere else and I don't have any brothers and sisters or wives or girlfriends or parents who are alive. It's just me. But it's me and Krishna, it's me and the devotees. So quite this time I got to fly here with Shruti Kirti and Vishaka part way, but usually I end up alone. But it's the place that I'm going that's important. I have to leave my hometown and leave Vrindavan, but I get to come here and preach because Prabhupada was happy that I had taken the responsibility. Sometimes we get separation anxiety from Vrindavan, but we realize if we're serving Sri Sri Radha Radhanath and trying to help people understand about Prabhupada and Krishna, Prabhupada left Vrindavan. He was perfectly satisfied there. He didn't need to leave. We needed him to leave. One of the Gaudiya Math people was asked, why didn't you go to America? He said, well, it wasn't ready for me. Aren't you glad that Prabhupada didn't wait till it was ready for him? See, that's what people expect now. They say, when you went to South Africa, did you go to the Sri Sri Radha Radhanath temple? I said, no, I got people interested in an idea of forming a congregation who would come up with a plan and build a temple. Or should I have just waited till you built it? And then we'll invite Prabhupada. Prabhupada and I will wait until you have it ready for us. Is that what happened? Is that what he did in America? Was it ready for him? He said he didn't know whether to go left or right. So we have to be thankful that others have taken a step out of their comfort zone. It's like my father used to say, I can tolerate anything but pain and suffering and resist anything but temptation. I mean, it isn't really that great of an achievement. So we can step outside our comfort zone and meet a few new people and bring people to Krishna consciousness. We don't have to know everything, but we have to know something, and we have to have practiced it in our own life. And then we can actually help other people. And we should look to finding Africans, which shouldn't be difficult because there are a few in this country. Over 40 million, right? How many Indians are there? About 2 million? How many whites? About 10 or 5? No, there's more than 3 million Africans. 3 million Indians, maybe. They must have left a lot because there used to be 5 million. Not 2 million only? What's that? 3 million whites. Only 3 million left. Boy, in 72 it was like there was 10 million? Was it 10 million? Yeah, it was 10 million. Maybe only 5. Maybe they were only 10%, right? 10% is a big amount. But you can still find them, right? If Indians are 2% and you can find them, you can find the ones who are 5 and 80%, can't you? So we have to think of this as a vision. Maybe it doesn't all come together in one day. Just like when I came here, the temple wasn't built for a few years, but we had the idea of building a temple and we had the idea of preaching. So I think we should stop there. Any corrections or additions? Anything to say?
Rakesh Prabhu, thank you so much for enlivening, instructive class on preaching in Africa. I was just reflecting on Shruti Kirti Prabhu's class yesterday as well, where he was talking about how every service was important to Srila Prabhupada, and
Yes.
it wasn't that this was more important than that or something like that. So I was wondering if you could share a bit more in terms of, many of us may feel inspired to just, okay, go out, preach.
Yes.
But then how do we balance that with other services that are required at the temple, or cooking, or all these different things? Like, how do we understand how?
Because when you're out there, you may go to a store, or maybe once in a while you go on a preaching engagement. You go to a place where they're chanting, and then you meet a few people. You keep it in mind. You talk to a few people, tell some, hey, you ever been to that temple up there? Especially you walk down to the shopping center here, they've all seen this. You been to that temple up there? No, well, would you like to meet me there and I'll show it to you? People go to the store. It's like some people say, well, they're working. But people always get off sometime, right? Nobody's working 24 hours a day. So maybe the fact that you're working means you can't be here all day, but can you be here part of the day? Can you be here part of the day on some of the days? So even though we're doing other things doesn't mean we shouldn't keep the idea in mind that maybe I can meet someone of another race who wants to come to the temple. Not that you go 24 hours a day down to the mall there, but when you go, keep that in mind. And maybe you meet someone, tells you, hey, you been to that one up there? Especially you see an African that looks like they're a little more affluent, a little more educated. Say, hey, I'd like to be your friend and show you around there. Everybody has to go to the store, don't they? So, I mean, it sounds good they're doing other service. They can't do that at all. In America, in some of the places, they do the monthly Sankirtan festival. And people go out, and they quite often go in teams of 3. And one person has done it a lot, one person a medium, and someone else just a little. And Vaisheshika makes it easy. He says, just go with the other devotees and watch them distribute books. It's not like Guru Kripa's old method. He told them, pick it to the bone or don't come home. He had those boys in Japan collecting, and they had to collect somewhere between 5,000 and 8,000 rand a day. We're talking in the middle 70s. Is that easy to do on the street? Especially if you can't come home unless you collected it. Now how easy is it? They don't tell you that now. Just go with a few books and try. So you pick a day and go with a few others. Go to an area where you can get someone interested. I realize if you can't get someone's attention, you go to the next. People become frustrated because they don't get someone's attention, and then they try to get money from them. If you don't get their attention, wait till you get the attention, and then go on to the next steps. I asked Pragosh, was a very good distributor. I said, how do you do well at books? He said, I spend 90% of the time with the 10% most likely to buy. So if you can't get someone's attention, then you don't chase them asking for money. You go through the steps. And just because you may be working or doing other service doesn't mean it can't be done once in a while. Does anybody here work? It's like the people at the that are first-year associates at Goldman Sachs. They work 80 to 100 hours a week. There's only 168 hours in a week. If you work 84 hours, that's 12 hours a day. So if you take Sunday off, it's got to be 14. So I think they work 12 hours, 6 days a week, and 14 hours, 6 days a week, and then take a half day, which is like 6 hours, right? They don't have time for much else. Anybody here works 84 to 100 hours a week? Anybody have DD service that takes that many? I guess you're not ready to be first-year associates at the Goldman Sachs, right? You think a lot of those people give up? So nobody has no time. People say I have no time, maybe little time. And we have to keep the time in mind. Does that sound good, or does someone think they're so busy they can't do any of it? Maharaj, any comments on that? On influencing people, bringing people? What would you say about? Okay. He can respond. All right. Well, you're both pointing each other out. That means you both have to say something.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Kshudi Prabhu. You've got a very analytical mind and a very wonderful way of presenting intricate facts. So that's very wonderful. We wish you'd been in South Africa years ago, and then you could have guided us in our land transactions before we did something stupid.
That's why I learned that now, because quite often, people are always willing to buy properties at 20 to 60% of value. But when we're dealing with properties, we should be the ones buying at a discount, not selling at a discount. Let me ask you in these ones. In New York, Prabhupada told them not to sell the 55th Street, right? So then why did they sell a building for $2.8 million that the people fixed it up and sold it for $105 million? So if Prabhupada doesn't want you to sell a building, he certainly doesn't want you to sell it at $100 million loss, does he? So it's like Prabhupada says, we have to educate ourselves on the matter. Somebody needs to understand if a piece of property is for sale for 3 million rand, you need to know if it's only worth 1 or if it's worth 5. You need to know how this works. So they made mistakes in this.
They're called blunders.
Yes. Because it's better to know you don't know than to think you know when you don't. Find someone who does know. Find a real estate person and say, guide me in this. There's a whole system of how it works. But people don't understand. Here it's like at the bank, they tell you they'll give you a mortgage on your property, right? Is that right? Do they tell you that? You buy it with a mortgage? But you don't get a mortgage, you get a bond. It isn't the same thing. It's like a woman getting a boyfriend instead of a husband. The mortgage, it takes a year to foreclose on. The bond takes only 3 months. So people need to understand. Just like the spiritual facts, if you don't, you find someone who does, who represents you. Just like spiritually, you don't, some random person says, oh, your guru doesn't know, follow me. So don't go to your own attorney, come to mine. I'm suing you, but don't use your own attorney, use mine. That's ridiculous in all the fields, but even worse in the spiritual field, because I may be able to gain money back, but I may not be able to gain the spiritual connection back. But which one do I want to lose? Good legal advice, good medical advice, good financial advice, or good spiritual advice? Which one do I want to lose? Or is it D, none of the above, or E, all of the above you don't want to lose? If the material ones are important, the spiritual is even more important. So who, between now and the end of the year, can bring a couple of African people to the temple and show them around? Raise your hand if you can do that. No one raising their hand? More hands. You got to at least try. You can't make one African friend? More hands, please. More? All right. Hare Krishna.